Hello, welcome to Hat Trick. I'm Jordan Dollar Coltman. Elliott and Braydon are with me as always. Welcome back, boys. Lots to get to this week. It's obviously that time of year again. We're going to talk basketball of the college variety as we get into March Madness and the beginning of the NCAA tournament. We're going to talk about baseball because baseball is back. Braydon, I am sure you are very excited about that.
It was the best birthday gift I've ever received.
I sent you a really nice hat.
It was a close second. It was a very close second. Like, it's probably a tie act. We'll get to that in the next episode of Pit Stop Podcast.
Yes, which is coming back this week. All right. Well, now that I've been completely and utterly let down by this just devastating news that baseball somehow is a better gift than what I had worked out, let's just get to it. I mean, let's just here we go. Here's topic one. All right. We're going to start on the hard court, and NCAA tournament is here again. One of those parts of the year that, you know, if you're interested in sort of tuning into a sport, you probably don't follow the rest of the year. Like the majority of people who all of a sudden become experts in bracketology when it comes to basketball of the college variety, all of a sudden everyone knows everything about every little, you know, the storyline and player as if they've been following it. Most people who are, you know, nobody follows basketball in college the way that they pretend they do when it comes to this time of year. And so that's what makes it kind of fun. Everybody gets to pretend they're an expert, and we're going to do a little bit of that ourselves. We're not going to take you through our entire brackets, as we don't have a 4 or 5 hour long show like what ESPN or what every other major network is going to dedicate themselves to for the next 2 or 3 days here. As it's just blanket coverage. Instead, we will give you our picks for the Final Four and the championships. But that is all we will do pick wise. Before we get to that, really quickly, Elliott, on a scale of like 1 to 5, how excited are you every time this tournament rolls around when it comes to sort of, you know, the viewing habits that change and all of that? How much attention and energy do you give to March Madness?
Oh, it's a great question. It's really dependent on how much time I have and, you know, my capacity to actually sort of watch TV and sports. Not my favorite thing necessarily, but I pay attention to it more than any other NCAA sport in that realm. So I do take note of like the Final Four. Generally, I will know who the Final Four is, and I might even watch a bit of the championship game. I also sort of don't mind that there's basketball on TV all the time during March Madness, because the product is really good. The games are interesting. They're shorter. I find them, they're super swingy. It's college, so it's not as, the systems aren't as well as in place. I mean, most of these teams are professional, of a professional caliber, but next to the NBA, for example, it's a little bit more loosey-goosey. You know, you're going to get a guy with an open shot, and he might not always make it. Like it seems like it's always a for sure thing in the NBA. I actually really enjoy college basketball and March Madness. And I think the only thing that holds me back from watching it more and being more invested is just how much I despise the NCAA as an organizing body.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And I think that's true for a lot of people. Obviously, it's been nice in the last couple of years to see a little bit of progress when it comes to at least the image and likeness part of all of this. And, you know, feels like we're at the beginning of a shift, but you're right. The NCAA is just one of those organizations that has just a terrible shadow over it at all times. So that definitely changes things. Braydon, you are our resident hoops expert, and obviously mostly NBA basketball. I don't think you find yourself watching a lot of college basketball out of this spring tournament, but you know, you do follow it closer than Elliott and I certainly do. I'll ask you the same question on a scale of 1 to 5, although I don't think Elliott gave me a number. On a scale of 1 to 5, where do you find yourself excitement wise when this tournament comes around? How much of your viewing habits shift towards this?
I think, again, like Elliott, just in terms of how much time I have, that definitely plays into it more than, say, you know, I'll make time for an Oilers game or an NBA game. But I think the thing that really stands out for me usually is who what kind of narratives are going into it? What kind of players are we going to be seeing, especially with some of the high flying top prospects, depending each year who's going at it. I think that definitely plays into it. So I'd lean on like a four actually going into it. I'm usually pretty excited about it, and then through watching it, kind of either trickles off or gets more exciting. I think the most most excited I've been with March Madness was most recently with Jalen Suggs hitting a crazy shot for Gonzaga. The Gonzaga team was incredible. So I'd say probably about a 4, and going into this March Madness, I'd maybe say a 4.5, because there's some really exciting talent that's going to be in this tournament.
So let's talk about that for a second. I'm going to give you a couple names. You're going to tell me who you're most excited to see. You have, and I'm not going to do great with a couple of these last names, but I'm going to try. You've got Oscar Tieshbo. Is that right? Tieshbo out of Kentucky, whose numbers are just ridiculous. Apparently he's just, he's one of the best national players all season. You've got Johnny Davis in Wisconsin, who's a big reason that they won the Big Ten title, and a very exciting player. You have a player with arguably one of the most, just one of the most fun names to say, Kofi Cockburn out of Illinois. I'm just going to leave it with that, because there's a lot of things where we don't want to go with that one. And then obviously Jabari Smith in Auburn, who's turned Auburn into a real contender here. They're a number one team, and largely because of, how good he has played. And then obviously also, you've got a couple guys still playing for the Bulldogs in Gonzaga. So there's lots of great players. Who are you excited to see this year? Well, who are the names you're looking towards?
Yeah, the main one that you didn't even, so you mentioned the team and that they're with the Bulldogs, but Chet Holmgren is going to be an incredible star in the NBA. He's one of those guys that comes out, he's going to need to fill out and stuff, but he's like a 7-foot guy. He can shoot threes. He dribbles the ball like a point guard, but his wingspan's 7'6". It's ridiculous. This guy's generational. And we're going to get to see him on a very, very already good Gonzaga team.
Elliott, any of those names stand out for you other than Kofi Cockburn?
No, absolutely not. Cockburn, I did know.
There's one guy that we should mention, Shaedon Sharpe, playing for Kentucky, is going to be a lot of fun. He's Canadian. So there's a bit of a draw there too.
Yeah, so those are the kind of stories that I end up following and enjoying. I don't go in with a lot of knowledge ahead of time, and I actually don't find I glean a lot of interest from looking at the next NBA stars and the young stars. What I love in this tournament is actually the stories of like the 5th year guy who he's never going to be drafted. He's just like a team guy all around. Maybe he's got some defensive prowess or something like that, that this is his last game in college and at this level of basketball forever. And then he's going on to like quote unquote real world.
From a car dealership or something.
Yeah, or something like that. He's graduating at the end of the year and he's going to get his master's or something like that. I love those stories that emerge throughout the year, especially on teams that are either that 8, 7, 8, 9 seed, where maybe they get a little bit further than anyone had predicted, and it's a team effort and everyone's coming together. There's not one star. Those are the ones that I really look forward to. Again, I'm not the biggest NBA fan, so it's not, I guess in some ways this is like the World Juniors for hockey in terms of seeing like the next level of stars in that case. But I really enjoy those final stories, or those interesting stories that aren't necessarily related to the NBA.
Now, Braydon, is it safe to assume that we're going to be hearing a lot more about this tournament on your other podcast?
I reckon we'll be speaking about it quite extensively. Yes, we will be.
Okay, so I'm going to leave this part of it there. Then we'll turn it over to you guys, who are the real experts, because as Elliott just admitted, Elliott and I are very casual fans to this, but we will now pretend we are experts, as most of America does when it comes to filling out brackets. Now, I gave you guys the homework of filling out your brackets earlier in the day. Obviously, the selection all of those announcements were made earlier on Sunday. So we now know who all the teams are. We've gone through our brackets. We're going to jump forward a few weeks. And let's walk through our top four, so our final four, and then we can talk about who we have going to the final. So Braydon, who is the first team? You can pick from any of the East, West, South, Midwest, or whatever districts. Where do you want to start? Which team do you have in the final four? Give us your first one.
Yeah, my first team is going to be a return of the Gonzaga Bulldogs. I think, like I said, with Chet Holmgren, this is a team that has been there, knows how to be there, and they fell short last year. Or I'm trying to remember now.
Yeah, they lost.
They fell short last year, but they won the year before, I think. So they've got
I don't believe
a history
they did.
of being there.
I don't believe Gonzaga's won. I believe Gonzaga has been there to multiple finals and is yet to win.
And
I might be wrong. Double check this.
So if that's the case, that's a great narrative to be playing into. I love what Elliott said too about the teams that you don't expect to continue moving forward. Like the upsets are what makes this tournament so exciting. I just don't think that Gonzaga is going to find themselves in an upset this year.
Elliott, do you want to tell us who you have coming out of the West then?
Yeah, I also have Gonzaga coming out of the West, mostly because I like their logo.
Nice. So yes, Braydon, I just did my double checking. They were the runner-up in 2021, and they were also the runner-up in 2017. They made the Elite Eight in 2019. Obviously, there was no tournament in 20, and they made the Elite Eight in 2015. So those are their top finishes all time. So they are an elite program that has yet to find a championship. So obviously, a pretty big, pretty important sort of final ascent for them if they can make that happen. As you said, great storyline. Let me just round it out and say I also have Gonzaga coming out of the West, and I also I think they are destined for another great opportunity.
I just want to say quickly on the West here, it's going to be a lot of focus drawn on Coach K's last tournament here in the NCAA with Duke sitting second. So they do have a chance. Sorry, East. No, you wanted to go South. Wait, where do you want to go? Midwest?
Stand by.
That's the only other place we can go.
We can go West, East, South, or Midwest. The final four is set up West and East, and then South and Midwest. So to face Gonzaga, who would be West, you have to go to the East. Who do you have coming out of the East, Braydon?
I have John Calipari's Kentucky Wildcats. There we go. That's it.
Yeah, you did it. Well done.
God. The Kentucky Blues.
Wildcats.
There you go.
All right, so we have Gonzaga versus Kentucky. Elliott, who do you have coming out of the East?
I did not go with Kentucky. I have Purdue actually beating Kentucky and then beating UCLA and coming out of the East. Purdue. There's a lot of hype about that program. I think there's two really interesting teams. There's lots of interesting teams, but I also really like the UCLA team. I think they're going to go far as well too, but I have Purdue coming out of that side.
Well, I really like the UCLA team. And in fact, I have them facing Gonzaga coming out of the East. So they would be a 4 seed who would be the highest climber for me of my final four. But I do have them upsetting a couple teams to get there. And that sets up the East-West matchup of Gonzaga versus UCLA. Let's jump over to the South. Braydon, who do you have coming out of the South?
I don't know. Let me look here. I've got the here it is. Tennessee. I've taken the 3rd seed.
Okay.
That's a bit of a wild card pick, but I'm gonna go with it. And it's the Tennessee Volunteers.
Yeah.
Tennessee Volunteers. I should have known that one.
That's okay. That's interesting.
A strange name.
I do have them I do have Tennessee in my round of 8. But I'm not going to tell you who I have beating them. Elliott, who do you have coming out of the South?
I have Villanova beating Tennessee, if there's any, but then after that, losing to Arizona, who's my other number 1 pick that I've picked for the Final Four. Arizona is the team that I've got coming out of this part of the bracket in the South. I picked them and Gonzaga. They're my two number ones. I always try and do two number ones and then two others when I do a bracket. And so that's my one this year.
I also have Arizona. So we are even on that one. All right. Who do we have rounding us out? Coming out of the Midwest, Braydon, who do you have?
This was a hard one because there were a lot of teams that stacked up and it looked like they haven't played a lot with each other. So I'm not sure exactly what we're going to see when they face off, but so this was a bit of a safety pick, but I'm going to say Kansas gets there, the number 1 seed here.
Wow. Okay. Elliott, who do you have coming out of the Midwest, rounding out your final four?
I went off the board. This is a homer pick. Iowa is near and dear to my heart. I have the number 5 Iowa in the top 5, upsetting Kansas and Auburn to get there.
Wow. Okay. I have Auburn beating Kansas in the round of 8 to make it to the final 4. So that is my final 4. So let's just recap here. Braydon, you have Gonzaga versus Kentucky.
Yep.
And then you have, did you say Arizona as well? No. Who did you have on the other side?
No, I had Tennessee and Kansas.
Okay. So of those 4, who do you have making the final?
Making the final, I'm going to go with Gonzaga, and I'm going to say Tennessee.
Wow. I think a lot of Tennessee fans would be very happy to see them get that far in the tournament. That'll be exciting. Absolutely. Elliott, who do you have coming out of the final 4 into our championship?
I have Purdue upsetting Gonzaga and Arizona beating Iowa.
So you have a Purdue-Arizona final.
I do.
Okay, I have Gonzaga, the favorite, making it up against number 2 Auburn coming into the final. All right, let's really quickly run this down to finish. Braydon, you have who winning the national championship?
The Bulldogs.
Beating Tennessee.
Yep.
Elliott, who do you have winning the national championship?
I have Arizona beating Purdue and ending Purdue's magical run this year.
All right. And I have Gonzaga beating Auburn. So we have 2 Bulldog picks, and Elliott gets to be the odd one out. We know how well that went for me during the NFL playoffs. You never know. But this could all be over in a few days when brackets are busted on the first few days of the tournament, which always happens. The round of 64 is always the most dramatic and exciting because there's always inevitably going to be a couple teams that surprise people. And that's what we'll wait to see. We will leave the rest of this to the experts. Braydon and Christian, I am sure, will give us lots of more educated analysis. However, Elliott and I and the rest of the majority of those who choose to tune into the basketball at this time of year can enjoy pretending to be experts moving forward. And we'll see how it all turns out in a couple weeks. That's topic 1. Hey, if you're a fan of Hat Trick Sports, then I promise you're going to love the Backyard Basketball Podcast. Hat Trick's very own Braden Dollar Coltman sits down every Wednesday with his best bud, Christian Stack. And together, they break down all the news, rumors, transactions from around the basketball world. Whether it's the NBA or college hoops, these 2 guys love talking basketball, and you are going to love listening every Wednesday on the Backyard Basketball Podcast. All right, let's go to topic 2 now. To another sport that is technically not being played, but it's going to be played. The Major League Baseball strike is over. Pardon me, the lockout is over. We should be clear. The league locked out the players, but they have reached an agreement, a new CBA on the 99th day. You have to wonder for a second how many reporters and journalists had already pre-written their 100th day article. And then all of a sudden we're very disappointed that they weren't going to be able to file it. 99 days is all it took. Not so long at all, really, when you think about it. I'm sure for people like Braydon and diehard baseball fans, it felt like eternity.
It was excruciating.
But we got there in the end. A couple of big takeaways, obviously. This was an ugly one, but it was an interesting one because I think it's one of the first lockouts I can recall, especially for baseball or even just labor sort of situation, but especially for baseball, where it felt like for the first time, like the tides had really turned towards like sympathy for the players as opposed to the feeling of like these rich players should just play the game and these rich owners should just, make a deal. It really did feel like everyone was angry with the league for causing this. Oftentimes, it's felt like, it's rich guys fighting rich guys. But I think there's a real shift in like billionaires are the real bad guys over the millionaires. You know what I mean? And it just felt different, but it is resolved now. Big things, obviously, to take away from it. There's a CBT threshold of $230 million in 2023 that peaks at 244 for the final year of the CBA. There's new minimum salaries. 700,000 is the minimum. It now peaks at 780 in the final year of the CBA. So there's a little bit of growth opportunity for the lowest paid players. Pre-arbitration bonus pool is now $50 million. And obviously the post-season format changed to 12 teams. The biggest piece of it was also like the regression of some innovation, I guess you call them, or changes. We lost the 7-inning doubleheader structure that had been put in place to try to shorten games. And then also the man on second base in extra innings that again was designed to try to shorten the game. So both of those innovations or changes were removed moving forward. So it feels a little bit like we're going backwards, but I feel like I'm talking a little bit out of school as I am not a baseball expert, nor are I even really a true baseball fan. So let me go to Braydon first. You're obviously very happy that this has been resolved because you enjoy watching baseball. But as a baseball fan, are you happy with the result of all of this 99 days of negotiation? Was this worth it?
I hope so. I don't know if it necessarily changes too much. I mean, I haven't looked and scrubbed through all of the changes with the CBA in terms of what the players are going to be receiving. But in terms of the growth of the game, I think that, it might feel like a regression or we're taking steps back, but I think it's good for the league itself to have tried something and realized, okay, maybe this wasn't necessarily what we need to do to impact change in those areas. But I think that they did a great job in terms of focusing on certain areas, like creating a 6-team lottery for a draft. There's going to be a universal DH. That's a huge change for, the differences between National League and American League, and created a bit more universality of it. There's some changes in the wild card structure of how the playoffs work. So there's a little bit more playoff baseball, I think, that we're going to get to see. I think ultimately it's a really great thing. This could have gone on for a lot longer, just, based on how everything had started with the beginning of this lockout. But I think ultimately the players are going to be relieved and happy that they aren't missing too much baseball moving forward. And that I think for the fans, fans rarely care about what's going on in the CBA. They just want to see baseball. So I think it's great. I think it's great that we're back at it.
I just want to double check. You did say you haven't read the entire CBA. You haven't read all 452 pages?
Not yet, but I'm working my way. I will probably do that before I watch all 152 games of the season.
Well, you'll certainly have enough time because, those games are incredibly long. Elliott, you want to jump in here? How excited are you for baseball to be back?
Very excited. I have a major announcement to make on the show. I've decided that this year I'm going to try harder to follow baseball. And not only am I going to, I'm going to pick, obviously I'm going to follow the Jays as they're readily available to me. And that's going to be my AL team, but I'm actually going to select, and I haven't selected yet, an NL team that I am going to support. And I will be providing regular updates throughout the season on my NL team and my AL team. And I'm going to try and watch as much as possible. That sounds like a joke, but I've actually decided I'm going to try and do this. So we'll see how it goes. I at least want to know, I want to be able to name like 3 starting players on the team by the end of the year. So, and be able to talk about it in a meaningful way. Look, I think that there are some interesting things happening here. When we talked about this last time, we said baseball needs to have a reckoning. I think that they have recognized that. It's not going to come to fruition this year, They're focused on getting baseball up and running, although the universal DH and some of the other stuff you talked about is interesting. I think they are going to look at some substantive rule changes next year, including potentially a pitch clock and some other stuff that seems to be rumored, and players are going to have a say in that, which I think is important. So baseball has clearly got a lesson here. Some of the weird stuff that occurred towards the end of this negotiation, the day before they got a deal done, MLB canceled a bunch of games. So the deal got worked out really well. Thought it was really interesting that the players union executives voted against this new contract, but the players themselves voted for it. Clearly the pressure was on and they wanted to play games, or they literally play games, not play the types of games that the negotiators were doing. And I think that ultimately, that says a lot about the pressure that the league was able to put on the players and the deal that they're able to get. What happens? We'll see. I'm hoping for a better product. I think we're all hoping for a better product, because I still think this hasn't addressed some of the what our major concerns are, Jordan, when we've talked about this, that this is now the fourth most important sport in the United States, I think.
Yeah, obviously, I think my opinions about the current state of baseball have been made pretty clear. I don't need to rehash them here. I like your ambition to follow baseball more intently. I think that's exciting for you. Good for you. I would like to pitch you on an NL team, just because
you
I
want
find
to pitch for the NL team that he's.
No. Although now it'd be a lot easier because you don't also have to hit. I would like to propose an NL team to you, because I find them to be one of the most funny.
It's the Padres. It's got to be the Padres.
Yeah, it is definitely the San Diego Padres. Any team whose secondary nickname is the Swingin' Friars is just perfect for me. They are brown and yellow colored, which is just garish. They play in probably one of the America's sort of most cursed markets for sports in San Diego. And they're called the Padres. They're literally just named after little old monks.
Have you seen their mascot? It looks like a Disneyland mascot got lost and found its way in San Diego.
Yeah. So I would love it if you would try at least to follow the Padres. You will, of course, suffer for years and years and years.
No, Jordan, you don't understand. San Diego
so now
Padres
it's a bandwagon thing now? Yeah. So now you're jumping on the bandwagon right at the right moment. Please cheer for the Padres.
They were 30 wins back from the Dodgers.
Yeah, man. Fernando Tatis Jr. is a star. In the MLB.
Yeah, but this is baseball. This is the problem with baseball, Braydon. He just told you they were 30 games back of the Dodgers, and you're telling me this guy's a star. This is the problem with baseball.
They won't be this year. They won't be.
All right. Well,
that was some sound advice to Elliott. Is consider the Padres.
Consider the Padres, and if not, definitely consider the Mets because you should suffer. All right, let me give you each one more time and one more turn around the bases here. What should people look forward to other than just the obvious baseball's back, Braydon? What are for you the key storylines for this season if you have to water them down to 2 or 3? I know there's a lot going in, but for you, what are your most exciting storylines as a baseball fan other than it's back?
It's back, baby. I think mainly for myself, I'm a big Blue Jays fan, so I'm excited to see the next progression of this team with hopefully healthy players. I think that's what all of the teams are hoping for, is a healthy start because it's a long season. And like you mentioned, there's a lot of different players in different places that creates storylines, but I think just having it back. I don't follow the NL too much, so the universal DH isn't going to affect what I watch or what I'm excited about. But I'm hoping for a great season for the Blue Jays.
Elliott, anything other than your newfound love of baseball that you are looking forward to?
Well, let me tell you, I think that my favorite team in the NL, the San Diego Padres, have an exciting young lineup. One of the great young players in the game, and
can you even remember his name? He just told you the first. You don't even know.
I told you I haven't till the end of the year sure to learn his name. I told you. I have.
He's not even gonna remember the team name by the end of it.
So very much looking forward to following San Diego this year. As they're you guys know this well about me. They're my favorite team in the NL. So
Always have been. Oh, the bandwagon's pulling into town. All right, let's leave it there. That's topic 2. Hey, if you're a fan of Hat Trick Sports, then I promise you are going to love the Backyard Basketball Podcast. Hat Trick's very own Braydon Dollar Coltman sits down every Wednesday with his best bud, Christian Stack. And together, they break down all the news, rumors, transactions from around the basketball world. Whether it's the NBA or college hoops, these two guys love talking basketball, and you are going to love listening every Wednesday on the Backyard Basketball Podcast. All right, we're going to finish it off in style here. Some hats off for you for this week, the week of March 14th. Braydon, who are you taking your hat off to this week?
I'm tipping my hat off to the greatest number 5 in Boston Celtics history. Anything is possible. Kevin Garnett had his jersey retired tonight in the Boston Gardens, TD Gardens. So my hat is tipping off to Kevin Garnett.
That's a real power move, by the Toronto Dominion Bank of Canada, that they bought the naming rights to Boston Gardens.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Elliott, who are you tipping your hat to this week?
Two teams, two groups of players. The Briar concluded today with Gushu beating Kui in extra ends. Lots of great storylines here, including the Gushu team playing with 3 players instead of 4 because of COVID. Extra ends is always exciting in curling. Curling's a great sport. It's Canadian. Tip my hat to those 2 teams for entertaining us for however long the Briar goes on for.
Professional cleaning. All right. I'm going to tip my hat to what I think is the greatest comeback in all of sport. Everyone thought he was gone. Everyone thought it was over. After all of his success, all those years of just dominating, Kevin Magnuson is back with Haas. Nikita Mazepin is out. His father, obviously a Russian oligarch, was the main sponsor of Haas Formula One team. They removed him and the sponsorship from the team after the invasion of Ukraine by Russia. They did not want any association with a Russian company. His son followed him out the door. And we wondered for a few days who Haas was going to tap to bring in. Maybe it was a young, exciting driver like Oscar Piastra. Maybe it was going to be Phil Patty. No, they went back to good old Kevin Magnuson. He left the team a year ago in some disappointing fashion. He's back, and I'm very excited for him. My hat goes off to Kevin Magnuson. Best comeback of the week.
Yeah.
You all thought I was going to go with somebody else. I did not. All right. As we round up the show here, Elliott, I want to give you a heads up. March 18th, the Padres are scheduled to play the Mariners in spring training. 1:05 p.m. Do not miss it. They then play the Cubs and the Brewers. So lots of baseball coming at you here real quick. For everybody else out there, thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate your support. Please subscribe if you haven't already on iTunes or anywhere you get your podcasting needs met. Really quick updating note from the network. Pit Stop is back. The Pit Stop podcast returns for a brand new season. It is on its own feed. You will not find it here on Hat Trick anymore. So if you are a fan of Formula One, if you want fun, up-to-date news, analysis, and just good old conversations about Formula One, the new episodes will drop every Tuesday of following each race of the season. So it's not every week, it's following every race. The next upcoming Tuesday, we do have an episode this Tuesday, which will be our big season preview. We will give you all of the news from all the off season, all of the updates moving through the 2 practice sessions. We have now seen the cars on the track. Very exciting. And we also will do a very special edition of Formula One for Dummies. where we will introduce some big concepts about the sport that we're trying to help people who are new to the sport feel more like it's more accessible and all of that. Whether you are a huge motorsports fan or you have never watched a Formula One race in your life, this podcast is for you, but you have to go out and find it now. Anywhere you get your podcasts, just search the Pitch Stop podcast, or you can just look up the Ordinary Podcasting Network and you'll find it there on iTunes. Thank you, Braydon. Thank you, Elliott. Awesome week. Awesome show. Go Padres. That was Hatrick. Hatrick is a member of the Ordinary Podcasting Network. It's produced every week by Jordan Dowler Coltman and Braydon Dowler Coltman. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Thanks for listening.
I've subscribed to all their social media.
You're going to like this team.
I found a podcast about them already that I've subscribed to. I'm all in.
The Ordinary Podcasting Network wishes to acknowledge that the lands on which our conversations take place include Treaty 6 territory, the traditional meeting ground and home for many Indigenous peoples, including the Cree, Dene, Saulteaux, Blackfoot, Métis, and the Nakota Sioux peoples, as well as the unceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including the territories of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations.
We acknowledge the many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit whose footsteps have marked these lands for generations. And we extend our appreciation for the opportunity to live, create, and share stories on these territories.
The Ordinary Podcasting Network intends to engage in conversations and dialogue which acknowledge that reconciliation is not a destination, but a journey, and that we remain committed to practicing our craft in a decolonized space.